Hello and welcome back to another episode of BattleCHAT, where you guys chill out and I talk about BattleCon concepts. In this episode, we're gonna talk about Marmely and why she's the hardest character to play in this game. Now, for any of you who don't know, Marmely is often lauded and or criticized as one of the worst characters in the game. Not worst, but simply one of the worst. She isn't really that strong according to many people, and she doesn't really have the power to back up how atrociously hard her unique ability is. However, I think this is sort of an unfair assessment to our Dragon Princess, because rather than saying that she's just straight up bad, I do believe it's just that she's a really hard character to play. Now let's talk about why this perception of Marmely has formed around her. I think most of it, if not entirely because of it. The problem comes from the fact that Marmely is a Flight 1 character. People get into the game, open up Flight 1 and pick Marmely, and then they say, hey, this is a Flight 1 character, a beginner character. I should be able to do pretty well with this girl. And then they get destroyed. Compared to characters like Eligor and Schecter, who are in the lower flights of BattleCon Devastation, Marmely seems just like really bad in comparison, because Eligor can suddenly gain Stun Guard 5, Stun Guard 6, or Stun Immunity, and then Schecter suddenly has, 7 priority, both of which can easily just wreck Marmely's day. You can see why a lot of people tend to think why she's bad, especially because Devastation actually encourages you to start off with only one flight at a time. So, let's talk about the flight system and why Marmely is in Flight 1. This is simply because of one thing. Flights are all about mechanical complexity, not how hard the character is to play. This means that simpler characters are often put in Flight 1. This means these are characters that aren't about doing complicated effects that do tricky things like modifying range or what have you. They're simply usually stat monsters or characters who just accumulate resources really easily. Marmely is a very mechanically simple character. Every turn she gains resources and then she spends them for effects. It's really simple, it's not that complicated. By sharp contrast, a character like Joel is in Flight 4, simply because of the fact that his unique ability allows him to modify which bases he can take into the game. This means that if you're not really comfortable with the bases in the game yet, you don't know which ones to swap out for your other unique bases, making Joel not only a hard character to play, but a mechanically complex character because he changes the rules of the game to a big degree, literally breaking the backbone of what BattleCon is built on, the base Pentagon. Now that we understand that flights are all about mechanical complexity, know that it's about mechanical complexity, not how hard it is to play the character. This means that characters like Marmely, although they are simple, don't necessarily mean that they're the easiest characters to play. Marmely is a hard character to play, and again, by sharp contrast, Joel, who is in Flight 4, is so easy to play once you get his bases down, because of the fact that Joel just has a lot of big stats, a lot of stun guard, and can deal a lot of damage at almost any range due to his diverse hit confirm. On the contrast, Marmely is a character that doesn't really have a lot of good stats, doesn't really have a lot of good ways to take advantage of her opponent because, again, she rarely has any stats and her hit confirm's a bit situational. So, this brings us to the fact that although Marmely is a very simple character on the surface, understanding her and actually playing her is a very daunting task, mostly because she actually has to manage so many things. So, despite the character being in Flight 1, I do think that Marmely is one of the, if not the hardest character to play in the game, simply because of the fact that she has to manage so many things that other characters don't have to manage. Is this an indication of her being a bad character? I don't necessarily think so, although some of it might be attributed to the fact that she doesn't have enough stats or that she's a bit too weak. Marmely can play really well. She has very powerful effects and she can take advantage of them really well, but learning how to manage your cards properly and making sure that you are at specific ranges from your opponent to ensure that you don't get stunned easily is a hard thing to do and a hard thing to plan for. You might have to make a few hard reads in order to make Marmolee work, and that in itself is a very advanced concept. Doing hard reads is so hard. And I mean hard reads like being able to literally know what attack your opponent is about to play. See the cadenza at range 4 and then you say he's gonna do a clockwork shot. And if he does play clockwork shot, you have just played the perfect counter to it and suddenly you're winning this game by a lot. Marmolee is all about compounding advantages and escalating a lot. Marmolee has to play very defensively, and in a game wherein your main mode of interaction is to literally just keep attacking each other, this is very hard to do. Many people just look at her cards and say she doesn't deal enough damage, she doesn't have enough priority, but fail to realize that she actually has quite a few good defensive options in her hands, and it's using those defensive options properly while maintaining good hand quality that makes Marmolee a decent character. Marmolee requires you to be very consistent while using a character who is not consistent. And if we've learned anything from the previous Seth video, it's that consistency is power in BattleCon, and it just so happens that Marmolee doesn't really make being consistent very easy. However, if you unlock her true potential, understand how to manage her cards properly, as well as understand your opponent's strengths, weaknesses, and comfortable ranges, you can find that Marmolee is very hard to hit and or stun. In fact, she can probably trade positively against you a lot of the time in the hands of a very skilled player. However, that is just my opinion, and that is just me having a little battle chat. If you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, do put them in the comment section down below. I'd love to read them. And if you guys, of course, have your own opinions, maybe you think Marmolee is just straight up bad. Maybe you think that Marmolee is not the hardest character to play in the game. Maybe you think it's Seth. Maybe you think it's Voco or something along those lines. Do tell me in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your guys' ideas and or opinions. And of course, as with any battle chat video, if you guys have any suggested topics for me to talk about or discuss, do put them in the comment section down below and they will become the topic for a future video. Now, without much else to say, thanks for watching and good night.